Right, welcome back to another episode of Code Bruh. This is going to be a very interesting episode. You already know. You are probably trying to understand, wrap your head around, why is it that men cheat? The truth be told, everybody cheats. Woman, man, doesn't even matter. Today's episode is about why men cheat. Right? Code Bro, this is your number one podcast for women who need a sidekick and a voice for men. Let's dive in to the reasons why men cheat. Now, obviously, there's 1,000 reasons why. There's so many things that we have to uncover for you to understand it from a psychological and emotional perspective, for you to understand completely why men cheat. But in today's episode, I'm only going to give you the most common denominators, the most commonalities amongst everybody that I either interview or speak to, friends, or even just from my own personal experience in my life, to help you understand why men cheat from a men's perspective. Now, I don't want you to be biased now. I don't want you to start tripping when I start saying some things that just you don't resonate, you are maybe offended by. It's only information to help you understand it. And again, this is going to be a course created for you so that way you can completely unwrap the mindset of a man and their perspective towards a relationship. So without further ado, let's jump right into the podcast. Again, this is your boy, Joseph Perez on Code Bruh. So obviously I got notes I got to go over so that way I can make sure that I cover everything. So if I'm looking away from the screen, you know why, because I need to reflect back on what the fuck did I research. But most importantly, some of the notes that I need to cover so that it makes most sense to you, the listener, the watcher. You can find me on YouTube again, Joseph Perez. Just find me. You know where I am. All right, let's dive in. So the number one thing that you need to understand is that for men, all men, backed by evolutionary psychology, men seek multiple partners to increase reproductive success. Now, we all know that we're in this world together to procreate, right? Things replicate, they duplicate. History repeats itself. We have to let off our offspring, right? So for men, we are always inclined to trying to reproduce. It doesn't even matter if you are snipped or not. The mindset is I need to have kids so that way I can build my legacy and I can live on forever, right? My name can live forever. So the mindset of a man is, okay, I need to reproduce. Same thing for women. That's why there's a biological clock. For you ladies, you have a certain amount of time, a period of time where you can remain fertile, have eggs that can obviously provide or conceive a child, right? So for men, it's the same way. So we're always trying to figure out, okay, how can we, quote unquote, I'm just going to be modern here. How can we bust a nut, right? How can I orgasm? And for us in today's society, we have sex and we've completely taken out the concept and the idea of conceiving. And we replaced it with how can I bust a nut? Right? So we're all about sex. Sexual nature is what we are. That's what we are supposed to do. That's what animals do. They have a shorter time span and their goal is to reproduce. Same thing for mammals, same thing for men, humans, right? So, boom, evolutionary psychology already says this. You already know, you took high school class, you know what's up. I ain't got to go into the details on that. Let me talk to you about fertility cues. Men often subconsciously are drawn, right? They are drawn, attracted to physical features of younger women that signal fertility, right? Such as youthful appearance, body shape, and certain facial features. I'm a firm believer on this, that God has created woman to attract man, period, right? And so if that is true, it's obviously going to be a continuum where every single man is going to be attracted to a woman. So in a relationship, it's very hard because now we have other factors that we have to incorporate. But for men, they have to be more disciplined to not let other things be sidetracked. They can't be sidetracked by other women, like the shiny object syndrome or a squirrel brain, right? You've probably heard this before. Men have squirrel brains because when women come to us, and whether it's just passing or if it's a actual interaction, we are attracted by beauty, and not only just beauty, but of course emotional things, right? If we have great conversation and they're so nice and kind and polite and they're supportive and they listen to us and they help us communicate, because most men don't know how to communicate, we are attracted to that. So of course we're going to be attracted to women because that's how God has designed it to be. So what does that have to do with cheating? We're going to dive into it. But on an unconscious level, subconscious attraction is real. And so studies have shown that men may find women more attractive when they are near ovulation, key fertility marker, even without consciously recognizing it. I know this happened to me before. I see a woman who are pregnant, and there's something about seeing a pregnant woman, and it's so beautiful to see because it's like, damn, that's beautiful. It's like there's a living being, a soul inside of that beautiful person, right? And inside of a belly that soon is going to live with us. And subconsciously, when women are fertile, and if you're a woman, listen to this, you probably can confirm this to be true, is that when you're fertile, you're probably the most horniest. Right? You're the most horniest. And the same thing is true for men. And for men, we can sense that, but it's not going to be conscious. We are not going to be thinking about, oh, is she fertile? Oh, shit, I'm about to smash. Like, we ain't thinking about that. We got other shit to worry about. But our brain has wired itself to understand these things subconsciously because it's innate within us to understand this to be true when we need to conceive. So for men, we are consciously thinking about sex, but subconsciously looking for women who are fertile. And there's certain periods of time in a woman's cycle when she's fertile. Ladies, I'm not a woman, so I don't know, but you know. And you know what I'm talking about. So, okay, I got you, Joseph. So what you talking about? Right? What you talking about? So let's get into it. Now, to understand it from a full, broader perspective and a spectrum of why men cheat and why men don't cheat, you have to understand some biological foundations to the success of a cheater. And with all these factors involved, these are small things that men don't even know, right? If you've ever been cheated on before, you probably can understand what I'm saying right now is when you ask this question, if you've ever been cheated on before, you ask this question, why did you do it? And chances are they have no idea why. They can't really come up with a reason why. And they'll probably tell you some of the things that they know subconsciously that they know because they thought about it, especially if they acted upon it, right? And then they start to reflect, okay, I understand, maybe my girl wasn't there for me. And, I saw this other woman and she was just there and she was supportive and emotional. And, one thing led to another, right? Real superficial. But if you're trying to truly understand it from a man's perspective, but also on a psychological, biological level, then you need to hear me out on this. You have to give it a chance. Let it simmer. There are things that we just don't know. And that's why God knows everything. We don't know nothing. And we're still trying to unpack things that we just don't know, trying to discover things. So for men, we are just so simple and we're logical and we make decisions on our logical level. For women are more emotional and they make decisions on emotions. right? And if you're a woman listening to this, you understand what I'm talking about, where you are trying to buy something and you're sifting on Amazon and you see a bunch of things that you want. You probably put in your shopping cart and you're like, "Ooh, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. I love this. This is beautiful," right? But if you ever really took a look at it, they are trying to sell you on an emotional standpoint for you to be an impulse buyer. And then for men, we are logical. So we're going to do the same thing as you, right? We're going to go on Amazon. We're going to find some things that we like. Okay, I want this. I want this. I need this. I need this. This is what I'm looking for. I got it. And then we start to analyze it. Like, there's no emotions involved. It's just all analytical. Like, we're looking at it and it's like, okay, I don't know if I need that. That doesn't really apply to my budget right now. I can do with that. I mean, I can probably get that later. It don't make sense for me to buy that right now. Nah, I'm all set. And I'll probably get that though, right? So we are logical, and it's the same as in the dating field. So when we make decisions, we're making decisions on a logical basis. And so we're fast to act and react and decide. But it's only on a logical level and has nothing to do with emotions. And if you've ever been cheated on, it's always like, okay, why did you cheat? All right. And then they get to the answer. And then you got to start talking about, okay, did you love me? Right? I mean, person who would do that doesn't love me. And for men, we do love. We do love you. But at the same time, it wasn't about love. It was about logic. Right? And so you have to understand that on a very superficial, basic level, is that it's logistics involved. The wiring in a man's brain is completely different than a woman. The same thing is true for women. And that's why we will never understand each other. But it takes a certain kind of man to understand this, to help relay the message to women. And I'm hoping that at some point, women can truly start to understand this. And I'm hoping at the same time, vice versa, that men can understand women, because we're so disconnected where we just can't really see eye to eye on a lot of things. And that's because there's a communication issue. So I'm communicating to you from a man's perspective what is going on up here. So let me dive into a few other reasons why men cheat. I think that we're getting somewhere, right? If we are, go ahead and drop a like, drop a comment. Okay, tell me what you're thinking so far. If I'm full of shit, if you don't like what I'm saying, if you fucking hate my guts, if you are a feminist, you're probably hating my guts anyways. But for men, you know what's up, bruh. You know what's up. I'm just saying, you know what I'm talking about. And for certain women that get it, they're like, oh, I got it. I see what you're saying. Okay, keep going. So let's keep going. So let me dive into five other points that I got here that help you understand it from a different level that you probably have never seen before, maybe heard before. And I'm hoping that it makes more sense as I dive deep into it. Now, why do men cheat? There's a few reasons why. And again, this probably applies to women too. And of course, I got other videos and content that help you understand it from men who are listening to my podcast, which I do have about 75% of men listening to my podcast here, about 25% of women listening to the podcast. So it's probably going to balance out at some point. But right now, a lot of men, you understand, I'll probably get into it from a woman's perspective. But for women, for the ladies, for men, why they do the things they do is because a lack of emotional connection in their current relationship. A lot of times men have struggled in their relationships because we are always trying to be successful and focus on, business and money and providing and protecting, being a dad, being a husband, being a man. And so a lot of times, especially in the beginning, things are perfect. Things are great. We all love what's going on. And towards somewhere the end of the relationship, we don't know when the end of the relationship is, but if you ever studied this, in the timeline of your relationship, the beginning is always the best. The middle is obviously, it's okay. And towards the end, it falls off. It's most likely because of that emotional connection has dissipated, where that emotional connection no longer exists. And whenever that starts to happen, whenever it starts to occur, that's when things start to fall apart. Men start to become distant. They don't want to be involved anymore. They're not doing the same things they used to do in the beginning. And it's probably the same for women. So then they start to think on a logical perspective, a logical, avenue of, okay, now I'm not getting in the emotional side of things. Logically speaking, I see this beautiful woman because, again, innately we are supposed to procreate and bust nuts. But at the same time, we see beauty and we're like, ooh, that looks good. Brand new. Let's start again. Right? So, boom, emotional connection is the biggest thing. Second, self-esteem issues and the need for validation. Huge one. The need for validation. Obviously, self-esteem issues is big. A lot of people got problems. I got issues. If you ever try to wife me up and we start to talk and we start to vibe, you will start to see that this nigga is crazy. Everybody is crazy. We all are crazy. We all have problems. We all got self-esteem issues. We all are subconscious of some level. Like, we're self-conscious of ourselves and we see some of our flaws and we're just inconfident. So, but the need for validation is huge. We are trying to always constantly seek validation from others so that we can be approved of and move forward with whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. And so that's why we are broken, because if we're not receiving that, there's a missing piece. So we start to find the peace in others. That's why we're in this world together with other people. You can't do anything without people. So you got to validate. And the way you validate it is with other people. And that's why we're always constantly chasing others that can validate some of our decisions and some of the things that we want to accomplish. Self-esteem issues and the need for validation. Third, opportunity and impulsivity. Proximity increases the temptation. This is a massive one because, one, you got opportunity, then you have impulse. So you see something, you're most likely gonna say something. You ever heard that? You ever heard that saying before? You see something, say something, right? Opportunity is everywhere. It takes a strong man, a disciplined man, and it's not only just discipline because every man has flaws. And when I say man, it's not just the sexual identity; it's just humans in general. Every person has flaws, but when it comes to opportunity, we want opportunity because we don't receive it. That's why they call it an opportunity, because it doesn't come all the time. And so when opportunities arise, we act on impulse. We want it then and there. We don't want to miss out. The fear of missing out is real. So it's like, then you got relationship issues. You got the person who has problems mentally, who maybe has been, abused in his relationship. And it's not just physical, it's emotional abuse, right? And then you got self-esteem issues, the need for validation. And then you see an opportunity that comes by, act on impulse. Those are steps that lead to cheating. And even worse, when it happens, it's most likely because the proximity increases that temptation. Every time that we see people, that's a proximity issue. If you are getting closer and closer to somebody, that's a proximity issue. If you are seeing a pattern, it's because of proximity. You're close to whatever that is. That's going to be a temptation. So that's what leads men to cheat. Now, these are things that obviously there can be broken down to help you avoid doing these things. Right? If you're a man listening to this, and for a woman, you know what I'm talking about. You guys are so smart. intellectually smart and you understand what I'm saying. So, okay, what do I do about it? You're probably trying to figure out ways to do. Towards the end, I'm going to drop some clues on how you can do that from a female's perspective. And for men, I'm going to try to help you understand it so that way you can stop doing it if you are. Now, I want to talk about the biggest one. And I saved this point for last because it's a little bit to unpack. And I got to help you understand this. There's a thing called the Coolidge effect, right? And what it is it's men's tendency to seek novelty in relationships. Now, the Coolidge effect is a biological phenomenon where animals, essentially like mammals, humans, people, men, regain sexual interest when presented with a new partner. Something that's new, something that's, it's like that new baby. It's like something you've never had before. And when you get it, we all know when we get something brand new, we cherish it so much more. And before we get something new, we get so excited to have it. The effect is named after Calvin Coolidge and his wife, who, crazy story, visited a chicken farm where the president was told about a rooster that covered so many hens, right? So the Coolidge effect is the progressive decline in a male's propensity to mate with the same female, combined with the heightened sexual of that interest in the new female. So this is getting interesting now. Now we got all these factors involved that help people understand it from a different level. Now we have science, right, involved where, okay, the Coolidge effect. So now we have something brand new that comes into our life. Obviously, it's going to be one of those situations where we get excited and we want to have it to the point where we cross that boundary of the point of no return. And so when you're in a relationship, you have all these boundaries, all these guidelines, all these rules. Nobody wants to be bound by rules. That's why we are seeking freedom. So it's important for you to develop yourself as a person who wants to attain their final phase of who they are supposed to be. For you to understand life, that's what wisdom is about. So you have to understand it from a different level. If you are going through the stages of grief or the stages of loss, if you have, you got your heart broken and your relationship is gone or your marriage is gone because of infidelity or whatever the case is, but you have to understand from a different way for you to break it down and really heal from it or protect yourself from it from happening again. And so for men, they're interested because they have that squirrel brain. And so it's up to you, lady, my girl, for you to understand it where, okay, what do I have to do then, Joseph, to not let this nigga cheat on me? What is it that I have to, who do I have to be? Who do I have to become for this guy, for him to have all his dreams and all his aspirations and everything else, his desires are fulfilled by me? First, you have to have the right man, right? So it takes a certain kind of woman to understand who she wants first and foremost. Secondly, once you have the man, now it's like, okay, what is it that he wants? Okay, because it's not only about what I want. That's only half of the equation. Now, the second half is, okay, what does he want? Thirdly, now I understand the bigger picture. What do I have to do continuously, consecutively, and consistently to prevent this man from being led astray? Knowing all the truth, the science, the psychology behind why men do the things they do. So now, what is it? Now, again, I'm a life coach. So if you need personal, because every situation is different. If you need personal advice, I advise you to go ahead and reach me on Instagram, josephperez.official. And find me on Instagram so that way you can go ahead and pop your question if you're dealing with something specifically that I can help you understand. But I'm hoping that I can try my best to be generic and general here so that way you know from my perspective how genuine and true I'm trying to be to help you understand how to be a better woman in your own relationship. Now, what is it that you have to do? There's so much that you cannot do, more so that you can. You have all these factors involved that help you find the perfect mate. You have to do all this stuff for you to be developed into the person that you should be in your relationship. Maybe all the healing and all the different things that you're doing to change, but there's a lot of things that you cannot do, unfortunately. It's all about, it's like risk mitigation. When you have a business, you open the business and you do all these things for success, but you should only be focused on the problems that you can solve, not what is working well, because that's not what's going to keep the business running. That's not what's going to keep the business from falling apart. It's about solving the problems. And the same is true for a relationship. So you have to understand it where, okay, what is it do I have to do? You focus on the main problems and you get better at them. And they're not problems that are just about the relationship or what that man is going through or what he has for problems, but what are your problems? What are you focused on that you know you can change for yourself? That's a big factor to help with the situation. But if I can say anything here to help it make sense for you to really, truly understand it and understand why men cheat, what can you do to prevent yourself from being hurt? Sex is a big one. They have high sex drives, very high sex drives where that's all they care about. And it's not just the only thing though. Let me make my correction. It's not the only thing they care about, because there's a lot of things that men want in a relationship. Every man is different. So don't quote me on this. Don't look at me like I got like 1,000 heads or 5,000 eyes. Hear me out. Men, they look for sex. If you're in the dating pool, you already know. Men probably trying to get that one thing. And the one thing only is to see, how can I get close to her to be intimate? Sex. And it's not just to abuse you or use you. It's because that's how they communicate. So what is it that you have to do to be better, to avoid this from happening to you? You have to be a better person. You have to have all the qualities. Take a look at my last podcast about what it takes to be an irresistible woman, to be completely irresistible to a man. That right there is a big one. Emotional intelligence, confidence, love, sex, beauty, a few other things that I talk about in there, but those are just a few. You have to know what you have to do. I can't tell you what to do in this podcast because I don't know you. God damn it. I don't know what the fuck you're going through. I have to understand exactly the bigger picture, who you are, what's going on, where you've been through, what your last relationship was, your history, a whole bunch of stuff that changes everything. They're variables. It's kind of like a formula or an equation. There's so many things that you got to put in there, and one thing can change everything, right? It's kind of like in a word. One letter in a word can change everything. It doesn't make sense until you put the right letter in there. Same thing is true. So these are just generic, basic information, the basics, the foundations, the one-on-one principles of success in a relationship for you to understand how to protect yourself, how to be a better person, a better woman, and also make sure that your man is not going to cheat on you. You have to do the right things. You do have to play a part, because it's not only about the man and what he does, because a lot of it is just like the push and pull effect. Men will do something because of what you did, and you will do something because of what he did or said, right? And it's like a push and pull effect. And so it's 50-50. It's never just one. So don't ever, if you are a person that blames everything on the man and everything that he does is because of his mindset, it has nothing to do with you, you're wrong. You're completely wrong, because it's not all about you. It's about him too. Yes, I know that. But also, you do have a part in everything that the man does, because it's a relationship. It's a 50-50 partnership. You can't be whole without the other person. So you have two sides here. You have your side and you have his side. And it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about, okay, what do we have within this problem and how can we fix it? Like I said, focus on the problems. Focus on yourself. Personal development is key. Listening to podcasts like this so that we can be wiser and understand it from someone else's perspective, hopefully from a man's perspective, because again, women are going to be biased. Because how can you understand it from a man's perspective? It's not possible. You can't get advice from a woman because they're not a man. It takes a man who is strong in wisdom and intellect to help you understand it. Maybe who has gone through it in his past, or maybe is just fully embraced and immersed in the studies of psychology and what relationships are and why people do the way they do. That's who you got to get that information from. So podcasts like this, read, study, personal development, and focus on the problems. Go ahead. If you like this podcast, it was very interesting. Of course, I'm not going to go into 1,000 hours of why men cheat, because there's almost like 5,000 reasons why. Drop a comment, drop a like if you want to know more specifically on your situation, or if you have a question and it's specific pertaining to you, I'll probably make a podcast about it, because again, there's 1,000 questions that people want to ask. And then after those thousands of questions are answered, they have 1,000 more questions to ask. So it's just video after video, podcast after podcast to help you understand fully and completely from different perspectives, with different points of views, with different information on different questions, to help you get the full picture of what it takes for you to be protected in your heart and stop getting cheated on. Woman, you are strong, you are beautiful, you are amazing, you are perfect just the way you are. It's nothing to do with you. Maybe just a little bit. All right, just a little bit. But it's not what you think. You deserve the best. You do. You really do. I know that you've been hurt, and I know that it sucks. You just have to hang in there, learn from your mistakes, keep learning to prevent mistakes, and stay positive. God is with you. He's on your side. Seek God. If you don't have God in your life, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And I'm not perfect. I am a sinner. But at the same time, God knows that. And that's the beauty of that relationship. So that's all I got to say today. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. I appreciate you for all that you are and who you are and what you do for me to help me blow this channel up. Share this video to somebody that you know needs to hear this, so that way they can be their best self and protect their heart, because you know that they need your help, because you found something so great and valuable. So please share it, like, and subscribe. That's the only way we grow. I'll see you on the next one. I promise you. I love you, and I'm out. Peace.